Hey guys, my name's Wesley, and this is Hot Takes with Wesley, where we talk about all the international, domestic, local, and Rock Hill news that you need to survive. So, here's the take. Our first and only segment for today will be about something that happened yesterday. Yesterday on Tuesday, January 6th, during the certification of the Electoral College, pro-Trump rioters ended up storming and entering the Capitol, mounting an insurrection against our government. And while they delayed and interrupted, they did not prevent the certification of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as our President and Vice President-elect of the United States. As of recording, upwards of 50 individuals have been sent into police custody, and 4 have died. Now, it's important to look at this event as though it's not in a vacuum, because it isn't. It's going to affect a lot of things, one of which being protest in general. Now, this protest was the only one of its kind. It was violent by nature, being basically a coup. But police action was limited, largely because, well, there just wasn't enough police. And this is in stark contrast to a different string of protests that happened this summer. Black Lives Matter. Now, Black Lives Matter, or BLM, was a protest that was largely peaceful in nature, and happened as a result of the unfair and brutal killing of George Floyd this summer, and advocated for racial equality and racial justice. And while, again, many of these protests were peaceful by nature, oftentimes the police weren't, and a protest that ended up being against police brutality ended up, unfortunately, being filled with it. And this proves as a stark contrast between the two Americas that we have right now, where it's okay to mount a coup, an insurrection, to be terrorist against the government, but not to ask for basic human rights and racial equality. Now, both on a racial level and for race relations in general, this will be influential, but it's not the only place that this is influential, especially because we know who's responsible for this. Our current Commander-in-Chief, President Donald Trump. For months before this protest actually happened, Donald Trump has been claiming that he lost the election because of unfounded claims of voter fraud. And while these don't have evidence and were shot down in court, he still continues to use them and has still continued to allow for them to be used by his base. In fact, that's why this protest happened in the first place, because days before the protest actually happened, Donald Trump planned it and meant for a protest to happen, even if it wasn't supposed to be this bad, against the certification of the Electoral College. And on the day of, Donald Trump riled up his base even more by saying that this was a fight for their lives. And his lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, even compared this to a trial by combat. And even afterwards, Donald Trump tweeted a video of him saying that many of his protesters, and towards many of his protesters, that we love you, and you're special. He talked to terrorists the same way that an episode of Full House ends. But unfortunately, it wasn't just our president that had this. In fact, many of his accomplices were from the great state of Texas. Many of the representatives within Texas, upwards of 16, voted to object the electoral counts in Arizona or Pennsylvania. And our Senator, Ted Cruz, someone who represents every Texan, also objected. That means that the same rationale that was used to justify this insurrection, that was used to justify this terrorism, this coup, was upheld by our Texas senator and was given credibility by the people that we elect into office. At the end of the day, what this shows is that action needs to take place, both on an electoral level. We need to make sure that, yes, Donald Trump has been kicked out of office, and we need to prevent people like Ted Cruz from getting office again in the future. But it doesn't just stop there. We need justice, and I mean legal justice. And that doesn't just include the thousands who protested and stormed the Capitol, but also the government officials like President Trump who allowed for it to happen in the first place. Today has been a sad day for democracy, not just in America, but around the world. And hopefully, we can take actions to change that course.